Okay, hey City Transformers, it's Jamie Lindsay here, founder of Moved by Compassion Academy, and where I get to help pastors solve the problem of poverty and the effects that it has on their community. If you are new here, I want to welcome you. I talk about all kinds of things here in Moved by Compassion and on my Facebook page, mostly related to outreach, community impact, helping people with poverty, as well as some other things as well. But I want to welcome you here. Thank you for joining me. Tonight, it's going to be a little bit different. I had kicked off a couple weeks ago I had kicked off a series called 7 Mountains Mobilization. And so just as a reminder, the 7 mountains are family, religion, business, government, media, arts and entertainment, and education. And this whole series is about how we can mobilize believers into each one of those spheres, because those are the spheres that have the most impact and control our culture. And so rather than mobilizing our congregants into volunteerism, which is good and noble, and we should continue to volunteer, what we really want to do is we want to help people understand the significance of who God created them to be, the industry that they're working in, how He wants to use them to build the kingdom 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, where they are. And so each week we're going through each one of the mountains. And last week we went through the mountain of family. And so I interviewed Kara Dowler. If you haven't watched that live, I just want to encourage you to go back and listen to it. Kara has just this amazing an amazing ministry where she is taking in pregnant women who may not have the support that they need to be able to go through the birth and care for their child. And so she's providing a home. She's working with dads to try to keep those family units together. And so she's just doing a lot of really great things. And so we talked about family and how family is really the building block of our society. It's what communities are made out of. And so it's a really important place for us to start as believers by influencing families. And so along with that, I had posted a excerpt from my book, Moved by Compassion, Mobilizing Your Local Church to Transform Your City. If you want to get a copy of this, I put a link in the description of this video to get a free electronic version. But if you want a hard copy, you can pick it up on Amazon. But I had posted an excerpt from that book, and so from my book, this book. And so I wanted to read a part of it because part of what I posted, and maybe a little bit more than what I posted. But I wanted to share this with you because I've just been reflecting on my own life, thinking about family, thinking about people, how they've influenced me, and the impact that it has had on my life. I'm turning 40 next week, so it's a good time to just kind of reflect on your past and your present and on your future. It's also the anniversary of the passing of my grandparents and my brother over the next few months. And so I just have been reflecting a lot on how God has blessed me, and so I wanted to kind of share the excerpts that I had posted last week, but I also wanted to give some reflections and maybe some shout outs. So while I'm reading this, though, what I would love for you to do is to tag, or if the person's not on Facebook or maybe they've passed away, if you could just put their name in the comments, and feel free to put as many people as comes to mind. But if you could please just tag or name at least one person who has an impact on your life. I would just love for this video to be a way to honor and to pay tribute to the legacy that they have created in you and in me. So here we go. So the excerpt. So in the chapter, I'm talking about all of the things that have happened in my life. Some of them related to I just want to make sure that my video is working. So give me just one moment. I want to make sure that it's posting everywhere. So thank you for your patience. I want to make sure people can hear me. Okay, great. All right, so in this chapter, it is chapter 7 in my book. I'm talking about an assignment that my professor in college had given me. And what I needed to do was reflect on my life and reflect on the social determinants of health, which, remember, social determinants of health are the infrastructural things in our community that promote health and wellness in our community. And he had asked me to reflect on that and to see where maybe my life had been impacted by having or not having these social determinants in place. And it was a really, actually very emotional experience for me, because I hadn't, and I'm hoping that I'm going to get through this video without crying. I am a crier. So I just have a very tender heart, and so hopefully I'll be able to get through the video without getting too teary-eyed. But it was hard, because, to be honest, when, all of us in our childhood, we've had different things, different adverse events that had happened to us, or things that we've had to overcome. And as we become adults, we kind of push those things aside. And so this assignment kind of stirred up that stuff for me, and made me really remember growing up the things that we had struggled with through divorce, moving a lot, there was some substance abuse, there was some mental health issues. My mom for a while was, she was a single mom after the divorce and had to work a lot of jobs, so she wasn't around. And so there were a lot of things that were stacked up against myself and my brothers and my sister that, I already feel the emotion coming on, so I'm going to try to push past that, that have been stacked against us that we had to overcome. And so, anyways, all that to get to this page in the book. So, while this isn't my entire story, it is enough to paint a picture. And there were other issues within my home. Not only did we have to cope with things, with what it was like to be in poverty, there were also issues within our home related to substance abuse, mental illness, and physical and emotional abuse. But both my parents had issues they were dealing with from their childhood that played out in how they treated each other and us kids. I know now that they were doing the best they could with what they had, but throughout my life, those things had had a lasting effect on me. How could I possibly be able to manage and cope with all the things that had been stacked up against them? Given my family history, it would have been very easy for my family to become a statistic like so many who are living in poverty. And then I'm going to talk about something called adverse childhood events, which are things like abuse, substance abuse in the home, a parent being incarcerated, sexual abuse, different things, and it's a 10-point scale. And so my adverse childhood event score would have been an 8 out of 10. This means that I had a much higher risk than the general population for chronic disease, difficulty holding a job, and mental illness. As I moved into adulthood, I did have some of these things play out in my life. During my teen years, I had gone between anorexia and bulimia. I had attempted suicide by taking a bottle of pills. I struggled with chronic depression and anxiety for most of my life. I had difficulty in relationships because I didn't know how to process emotions and resolve conflict, as I had never learned how to do so. As I moved into adulthood, I went through hills and valleys of working at being healthy and returning to negative habits. I began to cling to the things I could control in my life up until that point, that I could control, since my life up to that point had been chaotic and out of my control. This translated to obsessively worrying about my health by rigidly tracking calories and excessive exercising. Then, to counteract this desire to be in control, I turned to addictive habits like smoking and abusing alcohol to feel relaxed and decompress. In some ways, the effects of living in poverty still exist in my life. However, God is faithful. He has brought me this far, so I know He will continue to do a good work in me. As I went through the list of social determinants of health for my assignment and listing my experiences, I began to notice something very profound. While we did receive assistance from the government by way of welfare, Head Start, and Section 8 housing, and my mom received a Pell Grant to be able to go to college, it wasn't just the programs we qualified for that changed our lives. It was the people. My mom worked a lot to keep our heads above water. We were fortunate to have my grandparents and aunts to provide childcare, so my mom could finish her college education. Sorry. My mom had friends who would hire her to do housework or party planning for them so that she didn't have to feel like she was getting a handout. If our car would break down, my grandparents would find a way to get it fixed. We also had friends who would get food donations or gifts at Christmas from their churches and deliver them to us. One of our neighbors even sent my mom $25 every week. Another family from our church owned a ranch and meat packaging facility and provided us with meat. These people also took an interest in our emotional well-being. My youth pastor and leaders would call us to encourage us. My pastor's wife would pick me up for coffee. They helped us because their compassion moved them to action. We were able to make it out of poverty because we had a tribe of people who showed us the love of Jesus by helping us with our practical needs. My mom would have never finished school without someone to help her with childcare. There were times I could have been homeless if it hadn't been for the people who found work for my mom to earn extra money. All the while, our friends and family would give us a ride to church. I didn't get saved until I was in middle school, but I know that my life, had I not had the positive influence and prayers of the people at church, would have been much different. It was their prayers that gave rise to the voice inside of me, urging me to walk away from situations that I shouldn't be in. There were many self-destructive things I did to myself, but it could have been so much worse. And I had friends at church who modeled for me what it meant to be young but live a Christian life, while still having integrity and compassion for others. They genuinely cared for me. I will always be grateful for the hand the Lord had in my life and blessing me with these people. And so, anyways, I'm sorry for being emotional. I thank you, Jonathan and Cindy, for your encouragement. But I wanted to share this with you all because not only is helping people in poverty the right thing to do, it's deeply personal for me. Because I know what an impact all of these people have had on my life. I was having a conversation with someone over the weekend about their desire to feel like their life mattered, that they mattered. And I was talking to this person about a story. I had just finished the book club that we did here in Moved by Compassion on the fourth dimension. And that pastor, David Yonggi Cho, he was saved when he fell ill with tuberculosis, and a young girl who is a Christian came to his home and shared the gospel with him. I don't even think that he mentioned her name in the book. He might not even have remembered what her name was. And my point in bringing that story to him was she less significant than David Yonggi Cho, who went on to pastor the fastest growing and largest church in the world in Korea, where there's literally millions of people. They have services every day of the week because they don't have a space big enough to hold all of the people who attend their church. And I would say that little girl's life is probably more significant because she did this small thing out of obedience to the Lord that resulted in not only him getting healed from tuberculosis, but also opening the door for him to become a pastor and for all those people to come into the kingdom because of his ministry. All the while, her name never being mentioned. And so I shared that story because small things matter to people. And not only do they matter to that person individually, but they matter to the kingdom. And it could be just this small, I'm going to pray with you, or I'm going to send you $25 a week in the mail. I don't know how else to help, but I know I've got an extra $20 that I can give you. Or maybe it's, I'm going to watch your kids and I'm not going to charge you for it because that's what you need to be able to go to school. Or, whatever it is. I mean, even myself now in my life, luckily I don't have to struggle with poverty anymore. And I still, in fact, when I graduated from college, I had a graduation party, and I bought everybody a magnet that says I'm part of a tribe, because I wouldn't have been even able to graduate with the resources that I have without the help of people. My mother-in-law or my mother or my sister or my husband or friends who helped take care of my children. So, maybe they took them for the weekend so that I could study or write a paper or whatever it is. People, that relationship, that support that we get when we love each other, when we're generous, when we open up our homes, when we take the time, when we set aside our own needs and our own conveniences in service of someone else, those things are really significant. I want to make sure that I share everything that I wanted to share. I hope that, as you are watching, if you could just, again, put someone's name in the comments just to honor them for how they've helped you. And I'd love, as a bonus, as a gold star, extra credit, whatever you want to call it, if you would put in there maybe how they impacted you. But it's also, I even remember, what do I want to say about that, Lord? The other thing is that we need to, as we're going out into the community, as we are helping people, we need to be faithful and be consistent, even if we don't get the initial instant gratification of feeling, oh, I helped somebody. As I mentioned, the anniversary, I guess, if you want to call it, my grandparents passing away, my grandfather specifically, just happened over the last couple weeks. And he was someone very special to me. Even when I was like teenager, right? Teenagers. I have a teenager now. And he never yelled at me. He never condemned me. We spent a lot of time over their house because they were the ones that took care of us while my mom finished school. But, he would just write down a Bible verse and he would just hand it to me. He wouldn't say anything, Mostly it was the one about, your tongue being a rudder, or, no man can tame the tongue, or something like that, because I always said what was on my mind. But, he never condemned me. And I hope that my grandfather saw the fruit of those seeds in my life before he passed. I think he did. Um, but sometimes we might not see that. And so giving someone the space to just, I don't know, rant or act out or, um, I don't, yeah, just rant or act out or maybe do things that you don't think they should be doing, but loving them through that and meeting them where they are is going to have such a significant impact on their life. And so that's all that I really wanted to share. And I always there's a song that my youth pastor used to play. He loved this song. It's called "Thank You for Giving to the Lord." And maybe you all know it. I think it's like a Keith Green song. I think that's who sang it. It's like old from like the 90s or the 80s. But I loved that song, and it the whole thing is, thank you for giving to the Lord. I'm so glad that you gave. And the verse starts out with, when I got to heaven, when he got to heaven, that there were all these people that were lined up waiting there to greet him. And I used to always think like, Lord, I want my life to be like that. Like, I want to have helped so many people know you, that not that I need the thank you, but that there were all these people in heaven because I chose to take the time to love them, to invest in them, to share the gospel with them, to just introduce them to their Father. I want to live my life like that. And so that is, I think, the kind of church that God is calling us all into being. I think that we've gotten away from how personal and relational the gospel is. And we've gotten to this place where it's all about the service and Sunday mornings and performance and events and things like that, and like I said, those things aren't inherently bad. I'm just asking us to consider that maybe it's meant to be simpler than that. Maybe it's meant to be more like having coffee with someone and buying them groceries or watching their kid or just listening to them cry. Being that shoulder for them to put their head on, giving them a hug when they feel unloved. Maybe that's what it's all about. And that's what being moved by compassion is all about. It's feeling another person's pain so deeply that you're moved to action. And that is what I believe God is calling us back into. It's not something new. It's something very ancient. I mean, if you even think about, like, in the garden, like, Adam walked with God in the cool of the day. I mean, God is a relational God. And so I can't think of a better way to share his amazing message than being relational. So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys. I know I was being emotional, which I'm okay with. It just shows I have a tender heart. Because all those people that have been in my life, I just love them so deeply. And some are still with us and some aren't. And so, it's just good to reflect on that. It's a good to remember sort of these people that have made an impact on our life, and what did they do? How did they act? How did they treat you? And, how has that informed who you are today? I know that a big influence for me was my grandparents. They always opened their home. In fact, My family is still like this. It's not uncommon to have like 50 people at Thanksgiving, and half of them we're not related to. They're just people that we've included over the years. My grandparents used to have a camper set up in their yard that they, let people live in when they didn't have a home or whatever. Everything that they had, they made available to help people. And so it was served as such a great example for me in how radically generous God is, and how when you exhibit that level of generosity without condemnation, how that draws people in. It just draws people in because they don't even know what to do with that. They don't understand it, because so much in our world is based on what I'm going to get, not what I'm going to give to you. It's based on setting expectations and having to meet them, and these contractual interactions and exchanges, transactions. Relationships have become transactions, and that's not how the kingdom works. The more you give, the more that you get, but you don't give because you're getting. You just give because it's an overflow of the love in your heart that you have for God and the things that He cares about, which is people. And so, anyways, that's all I really wanted to say. Those are my reflections on the week, and just thinking about family, thinking about not just the family unit in terms of, moms, dads, and children, but the family of God, and how powerful of a gift that is, that I know I at times have taken for granted, but I just wanted us to kind of get back. I don't know. I wanted to highlight that for you all. I wanted to highlight that it's not just our immediate family, but it is the family of God. And, whether people know it or not, we're all one. And so when I hurt someone, or if someone is hurting, I am also hurting. It's hurting myself. And so I think if we really thought about that, maybe, I don't know, I don't want to be condemning by saying that. How do I want to say that, Lord? I think if we just all looked at it as we're one, and that when we help somebody, we're helping ourselves, because it's making our body stronger. I think that would start a revolution of people who are moved by compassion in their communities. And I don't think that my situation is rare. I think this is happening all the time, and maybe we just don't take time to talk about it or reflect on it, of what a difference the people in our life have actually made, or maybe they don't even realize it. I mean, I had a call today with somebody who had been watching my stuff on the Facebook page and just talked about what an impact it had on them. And, that's so nice to hear. I mean, that's not why I do it. It's so nice to hear that, though, because you don't always know that what you're doing is having an impact. And so, so it's just good. It's just good to talk about it and to reflect on it. So, I don't know. Let me know what you guys all think. I have rambled on enough. I have cried enough. I'm glad that I'm glad I wore waterproof today, so I'm not a raccoon mess on my Facebook for all eternity. But I would really love to hear from you. I would really love to hear, what are some things that you do to make time for people? How are you investing in people in your community? I'd love to hear what people have done to pour their life into you. Or what are some simple ideas that you might have of how people can do that? I want to hear from you. And so, so we're going to continue doing the 7 Mountains mobilization. I'm going to pick that up in a couple weeks. Next week is my birthday, so we'll see what I'll have for next week. I am going to be hopefully on a beach somewhere without cell phone service. So I don't know that I'll be posting live next week. And then the week after that is July 4th of July, Independence Day. So I'm sure none of you are going to be in the house watching me. You're all going to be at fireworks and barbecues and doing some fun things. So we will pick up the Seven Mountains Mobilization in a couple weeks, and it's going to be really good. I'm lining up some people to interview that I think are just going to give a really good perspective of how we can bring love back to those spheres of influence. So if you want to learn more about Move by Compassion Academy, please reach out to me. You can send me a message, or you can visit movebycompassion.com and send me a message, and I would be happy to meet with you to talk about how your church can develop programs that transforms their city. So have a wonderful week, and I will see you back in a couple weeks. I hope that you all get out to enjoy the beautiful weather, and that you have just a safe holiday. Previously working in a hospital, I know that July 4th is one of the most dangerous holidays that results in lots and lots of ER visits. So stay safe and keep all your fingers. And I will see you then. Bye.